All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Career Talks podcast. This is my first time using Restream, and I have to thank my guest for that, Miss Fanny Dunagan, for putting me onto this. I knew about it, but she's like, "Let's try it because it can stream to both our platforms as well." So and you'll see her sharing her comments, saying hi to everyone as you tune in. But this topic tonight, along with the dynamic person who is going to be speaking on this. I am super excited and super passionate about the specific topic, the rise of the employee creator or creator employee. But let me share, for those who don't know who Fanny Dunagan is, you absolutely need to know. She's very consistent with her content on LinkedIn. She runs a company herself called Pathlinks. She's very dynamic and consistent. What I love most about what she does is how she's delivering the content. It's always value. It's in a teaching mode, so you can consume each step, each bite, and apply it very, very quickly, right? I can go on and on. When I connected with Fanny over maybe 2 years ago and just reached out to say, hey, how do you do this on this LinkedIn platform, going live and content and etc. She gave me her time and some advice, and now I have the pleasure of bringing her on. But I want her to share more about who she is before I just, overdo it. So without further ado, let me welcome the amazing Miss Fanny Dunagan. How are you?
Hi, Orlando. Thank you for having me on your show. This is exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited, super excited. Just learning, all the ins and outs of the chat
Right?
that you're showing me here. So folks, as you're watching and you're
Yeah.
seeing me kind of fumble a bit, it's live. I'm learning.
It's
I'm
part
learning.
of life. Yeah. And
Exactly.
people
And
like the behind the scenes. I always feel like the more authentic we are, the more of a connection we have with the audience.
exactly. We all don't have it together. And I'm sure, and I'm actually getting sure that I feel like I'm too bright. But
I
if the
think you
ex
look great. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. All right. So share with folks who don't know who you are, your expertise, your background, your company around
Sure.
this whole content creation.
Yeah, yeah. I guess how I ended up here, actually, you mentioned I like to teach, and maybe it's because I came from a corporate training, corporate communications, and change management background. So I had a decade in consulting and doing all that. So I guess maybe that the little teacher in me comes out a lot in my content. But nowadays, I have my own company. And I'm the co-founder of Pathlinks, and I help small, medium, as well as large organizations build their video content and LinkedIn brand. And my sole focus is LinkedIn because I honestly think it's probably the most affluent network out there, and it's so suitable for professionals and corporate professionals, as well as entrepreneurs, consultants, coaches, all industries. And I just love this platform. I meet people like you, and it becomes this instant connection, and we're able to still keep in touch like after all these years. So it's a powerful platform. And well, today when we start talking about the creator employee, it's going to get exciting.
I love it. I love it. And I kind of feel sometimes that when I watch your stuff, I'm still in that student mode. So with this topic, but yeah, you have such a unique way of delivering the information because of your poise and professionalism. And you succinctly go over the topics and saying, here's the why behind it. Here's how you
Yeah.
execute it. Here's the results that'll come from it. And it's just on point every step of the way. You're like, yep, I
Thank
can do
you.
that. Record it, redigest it, and apply it. So I just absolutely love that. So
Thank you.
let's say hi to some folks that are joining. We have Julie Ann Sargent. Welcome, welcome for Barbados. Hey, I got family in
Ooh,
Barbados. Awesome. Um,
sunny Barbados.
yeah, I know. Jessica Chapman, welcome as well. So prepare your questions. This topic is super crucial, and I think it's a movement that's going to happen if it's not already happening. As
Mhm.
that article you sent me, and I read through that, so it's phenomenal. So
Yeah.
with that, let's talk about it. Right, the
Yeah.
rise of the creator employee. What this
Mhm.
break that down for those of us who are new to that term.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times we being in corporate, right? You think, okay, well, the corporate marketing department will take care of everything. They're the ones creating the content. I'm just going to be an employee and do my job, and that's it, right? That's
Mhm.
kind of like the traditional way of thinking when it comes to anything to do with brand or marketing for a company. But nowadays, there's this creator economy where anybody can be a creator. And in building your own personal brand, you can actually tie that in with the company brand, and then you both grow together. Because what happens is it's actually employees that will create the trust with their network in LinkedIn and have that bigger network. In fact, I wanted to bring you some statistics, Orlando, to you and your audience here. It says here, this is from LinkedIn actually. Employee networks usually have 10 times more connections than the company has followers. Okay, so your employees already have a bigger network than a company. And then from there, people are 3 times more likely to trust information that is shared by an employee versus by like a generic company page. Right. So again, like that trust factor, that connection factor, that network. And then the click through rate is always 2 times higher when an employee posts something versus when a company page posts something.
Mm.
So you're getting all this bigger network, more trust, more connections with your employee than you would just solely as a company LinkedIn page. And that's where you're going to be able to spread your messages as a company, is actually through your employees and their network.
I love that. So I'm gonna take a step back because I
Mm,
want to also get into your journey and what caused you to start, creating content.
yeah.
And so people start to see that connection and see the surgence of all this that's happening now. So what got you into, creating content and then hence creating path links?
Yeah, it's a very funny, windy, unexpected road, Orlando. Um, I left corporate when we had our first child. So I was in corporate for over a decade doing, consulting, some of those things I mentioned. And I ended up just working from home and being a stay-at-home mom and just doing behind the scenes back office work. And that lasted for about 5 years. And I started to get antsy. I
Mm.
kind of, you know, I like working. I love working. And so, but I was lost. I kind of like maybe similar to some folks that are in career transition right now. Like I took that time off and I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I couldn't go back to consulting because that was, a lot of travel and we had 2 young kids. And so I just started volunteering at a local outreach center. And that's when I ended up organizing job fairs for them and ended up, in order to promote those job fairs, creating content and videos to promote employers as well as to job seekers to come to this event. And that's kind of how I stumbled into video content marketing and creating content. And, fast forward a few years and I was able to kind of like make a business out of it and have employers hire me as well as job seekers. And now I just solely focus on like the business side of LinkedIn. And it's been phenomenal. Like with the pandemic, everything has kind of gone digital.
Hmm.
And so all eyes are online, right? All eyes are here. And that's where we go for news. That's where we go for jobs to go learn. And especially during the pandemic, just doubling down on content has really reaped a lot of rewards.
So with those folks who are, because you hear a lot of career coaches out there, we talk about, I say we, but I don't do necessarily career coaching anymore.
Yeah.
But we talk
Yeah.
about just content creation, right? To be that candidate, to get out there in front. And the
Yeah.
reason I pose that question is, do you have a specific cadence when you're creating your content? I know you have your set times, but
Hmm.
is there anything else around that? Like, I'll throw one up on Monday at 2. I'm gonna throw another one to Tuesday at 3, for Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday, or is it only once a week so I can get more engagement based on the algorithm?
Mm. I think it depends on where you are in your journey.
Okay.
at the beginning. Um, uh, I'm no longer at the beginning, so my schedule is a little different now. But if I was a creator at the beginning, um, you almost have to do it every single day
Got it.
just to kind of become top of mind, start creating your network. Because once you create content, you also have to spend some time engaging with people in the comments, right? And building that network. And several studies have shown that the best time for LinkedIn is actually Tuesdays and Wednesdays around like the morning time, around 10 a.m.
Mm,
And yeah. And so if you want kind of like your core content, like your most important, video or maybe an article, whatever that critical piece of content, definitely do it Tuesday or Wednesday, that morning time around 10. Um, and but the other days, right, also create. Mornings are good. You also have to kind of look at what time are people kind of picking up their phone and
hmm
logging in and kind of scanning, right? So when you're at the beginning, I advise every single day, um, at least Monday to Thursday. Fridays is still kind of like a lower day, but Fridays is kind of when you can experiment and do
Mm,
something fun or more like a quote or an inspiring story or a quirky thing that amused you or something that ties in more with your hobbies. So when you're starting out, definitely once a day.
okay.
And now I must admit I've gotten really busy, and so I just kind of like post what I can, and it's a luxury. But if you're building your brand, do it once a day, every day
Got
on
it.
the weekdays.
So you actually, with that Tuesday 10 a.m., Wednesday 10 a.m. time frame is a great segue to the main topic, right? Because in
Mhm.
that article, and we'll share that article after the live. I'll put it in the comments. It
Yeah,
talks about the risk, right? When being an employee and posting. Is it during
yeah,
business hours? Is it not? Is it for your personal? Is it for work? Um, Talk to us about that based on that article. What are you seeing out
mm,
there?
mm,
If you're getting any feedback on that, or just why is this so important now? Let's start there. Why is this
yeah.
so important now for employers to to embrace employees with a personal brand or who are looking to build a personal brand?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I was mentioning earlier, like your employees are going to have much bigger networks and more
Hmm.
trusted networks than a company. Um, I follow quite a few YouTubers, and they're always saying people buy from people, not a
Hmm.
logo. And that's why you see influencers having so many more followers than maybe like or a makeup influencer would have so many more followers than like the Maybelline you know channel or something like that, right? Because
Right.
people connect with people. So first remember that, and from there I think it employee organizations really have to kind of start to evaluate their culture, right?
Hmm.
Do they want to be a culture that helps their employees grow and give them a voice? And a lot of times, if it's done right, the employee will not only elevate the employer's brand, um, they can pull in sales leads and um, candidates as well, because they see that employee talking about, maybe some of the services of the company, what it's like to work there. And
Hmm.
that ends up pulling sales leads and candidates that may want to be hired by the employer. So it's really expanding beyond just thinking everything has to go out through a marketing department. They're still critical, but now it's just having that, it's like a bigger distribution channel, right? If
Correct.
you're a company that has 1,000 employees and even like 20% of them are helping you spread the word, you suddenly reach so many more networks and so many more like connections than if you were just the company alone.
Exactly. And you touched on
Mhm.
something earlier too, because you spoke about the different types of content when you gave the dates, the times and the dates. So maybe a
Mm.
post, maybe just an image, something quirky.
Yeah.
Um, with that itself, how much so, and I'm trying to make sure I pose this question correctly,
Mm.
with that is, we know the benefit, the immediate benefit, because we have a broader base, right, and following.
Mhm.
From an employer standpoint, is there much of a risk for them that they need to worry about when it comes to that?
Yeah. I mean, I know one of the common questions I get, especially in the finance industry, right, is you can't give any kind of like financial advice
Right.
or planning advice. It's very, very strict, very buttoned up. And so those are the kind of contents that have to filter through company policies and guidelines and all that, right? But what I encourage employees to do is you can still be a financial planner or a financial professional and still create content um, that doesn't necessarily have to revolve around financial advice, even though you're a financial finance professional, right? Around that whole area, you can even get into things like the soft skills, right? You could do posts about leadership, about
Hmm.
customer service, about growth, about learning. There's so many other things, especially the soft skills and competencies that have nothing to do with financial advice, and yet they're still critical to a company's values, a company's culture, right?
Hmm.
The soft side of that company. And so those are all things that can complement and dovetail into what the company's talking about, in this case, like finance and whatever rules and regulations and things like that. So then you can really then marry the soft side with the hard facts, and then you come out with content that appeals to both. And you use your employees to do the softer side of things if there's a lot of regulations around your other content. So that's just one example of how you can still create content without violating any rules, right?
Right, right. And I
Yeah,
love that. What's an even balance? And I would assume it's different per company, right? Per company, per
yeah.
employee, what
Mhm.
their industry is, the
Mhm.
level of work that has to be done. So it's a two-part question. One,
Mhm.
what's a good balance, or how should they come together and start opening that conversation?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then two, which department should participate
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
as well?
Number one, I mean, the simplest, quickest way is to whatever your company is posting or sharing, start to like, comment, and share it, right? Very, very basic things, quick wins, but then you're spreading that message out, right? Whatever the company's putting out on their page, like, comment, and share it. And when you share, don't just like hit share and then there's no context, right? If it's a job post or something around employer branding, then add a few sentences of why you joined the company and why you think other
Mm,
people should join, right? If it's a post about one of the services that the company offers, then when you share it, add, if there's like three best practices to do something, add a fourth best practice or fifth best practice. So you like basically enhance or add to the posts that the company has sent out. So that can be a very quick win when you create content, right? You just base it purely on the company first, right? So that's kind of like level one, right?
hmm.
Level two is then when you can start to create content just around day to day, right? Maybe you can do a photo with a colleague or a dinner or a lunch or a meeting, and just like a photo and hey, we just wrapped up a workshop on whatever, whatever, right? And so this is kind of like day in the life of almost, right? So those are more
Right.
original posts. And if you're a project manager, maybe you want to start writing an article, and you can still have that go through your marketing departments and have them, vet it a bit and make sure it's okay, but then post it within your own feed. So upload the document or upload the video directly into your personal profile, because that's going to have tons of reach, and then tag your company, right? So that's kind of like the mid-level kind of content, right? Um, and then like kind of like the higher level one is if you really want to become like a influencer or a thought leader in your industry, then you can, with, if you want to get the permission of your company, or just at least give them a heads up, right? Some companies are great about just run with it, right? Then you create original content like thought leadership of like future trends that I see in the technology industry, or like something kind of very forward thinking, leadership level kind of content. And so that way, you at each segment of it, you can kind of like test the waters and see what are the guidelines. And then that way you can build your brand, whether at the level 1, level 2, or level 3. So it's a great way to kind of
I
like
like that.
phase it, and still build your own brand along the way.
I love it. So let's take it to, I guess, what we would consider an elite status like yourself with access to LinkedIn Live,
Uh-huh.
right? I think that would take it to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
when I first reached out to you, and I might have told you this, but I connected with previous employer, pitched them to kind of sponsor when I started doing LinkedIn
Yeah.
Lives, which they did, and it was running great. Then we had to shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm
Mm-hmm.
on the mindset still like, okay, how do we continue that path along everything you just said? If we can say, well,
Yeah.
block out some time and talk about, because I've been TA, talent acquisition, right? And I
Yes.
can talk about the current openings.
Mm-hmm.
5-10 minutes, 10 minutes per the guidelines
Mm-hmm.
of going live.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that playing out? Is that a good idea? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, it can be even just like topics that are popular in the industry right now,
Mm,
right? So yeah, like, and I think what you're doing right now is perfect, like career talks, right?
mhm,
It always, a great portion of it is obviously TA and like, career progression, job search, that kind of thing. It can be, right? But career talks can also be like so much more, right?
yep.
Like it can be a series on soft skills of how to progress through, a junior role all the way to a senior leadership role. And like you could have segments on leadership, you could have segments on empathy, customer service, like whatever values or services tie into the company, you could take those as broad topics and then invite people and special guests to talk about all those topics. So it doesn't just have to be that narrow, right? Or if
Hmm.
you're a sales professional, right, and you have a show or a live stream, it doesn't mean you're always talking about the company's services, right? You could maybe even bring in other sales experts, and then it can be a show around, sales techniques, right? Or best practices or new tools, right? If you're a technology firm, like the latest trends, right? So you can go so much broader than just whatever your company sells, and just look at all the trends, both soft skills and as well as hard skills. Because what I always say is like, when you create content, appeal to people's heads as well as their hearts.
Mm,
So heads is all the facts and figures and tables and statistics and trends and graphs and all that kind of stuff, right? Corporate loves that. But at the same time, right, weave in stories, right? Feature people of how they progressed through the company, or how they went from junior salesperson to, sales director or something. And stories always resonate. Like we can listen to a whole long presentation and I can spit out a bunch of facts, but
hmm.
we might end up just remembering us like a short story that person shared. So there's a lot of ways to kind of like spin it so that it ties in with the company's people and their stories, as well as their values and culture.
Love it, love it. I jotted down some notes as you were talking, so that's going to help me build my
Yeah.
personal deck.
And I think somebody asked a similar question, right? What
Yeah,
they
someone
said,
said, and I
are
was
there
about to pull that
jobs
up.
out there?
Yes, I'll pull it up here. Yep.
Yeah.
So the jobs out there as a content creator that's outside of talent acquisition and marketing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sales, and in fact, like, um, sales trends, futurist jobs, and even just like when you're a content creator, you can really talk about anything, right? It doesn't have to be products or services. Um, it can even be just lots of stories in your industry. And
Mm,
content creation, like nowadays, you can monetize content, right?
yeah.
Whatever comes out of a, let's say you end up with like 50 live streams and 50 recordings, right? You could get the transcript from all of those, find common themes, common points, common best practices, put it into a white paper, make it into an ebook, and then that can become a piece of thing,
Hmm.
product that you could sell, right? And if not sell, that can also be a lead generator, and like, to get someone's email, or to download the ebook, they submit their email, and that becomes a warm lead generation for the company, right? So content is now like a monetization thing if you really want to take it there, and that's what a
Right.
lot of YouTubers do, and a lot of other content becomes educational material.
It does. It does. And you see how I mentioned earlier that I feel like I'm in class when I hear Fanny talk
I'm
as she
sorry.
breaks this stuff down. So this is incredible. Um,
I can't help myself, Orlando.
but it's awesome though. It's awesome. It's so simple. You're like, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think of that? I could be so much further along with my content. But I love it. I love
You
it.
got
This
all
is
these
good.
recordings, everybody, all
Exactly.
recordings. Well, here's a tool tip. Use rev.com.
Hmm.
I take that and then just get the transcript from it all. And then you
Love it.
got written content.
I'm doing it. I'm doing that. Trent, got it. Doing it. Saying hi to a few folks that are coming on. Bob McIntosh. McIntosh. Sorry, Bob, if I pronounced your last name wrong, but he'll be on the show in a couple of weeks.
Hi,
Appreciate you
Bob.
joining. Gabe. Hey, Gabe. What's going on, sir? Appreciate you joining.
Gabe, live stream expert right
Exactly.
there.
Guru,
Gabe
right?
Leal. Yes,
gathered
yes.
gathered look what feels like 100 people in a group that he put together. So appreciate you joining, sir.
Yeah.
I think there was another question or comment. I think comment from Gabe here is, oh, it's already up there. Yep. Listen to Fanny as she's exactly what she is
Oh,
talking
thank you,
about.
Gabe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then he mentioned something else here. I want to get it on a bigger lot. So
Yeah.
lots of companies hiring content managers. Yep. Heads of content, leads, content strategy and management, search content marketing managers, and similar opportunities in your network search bar. So for the person who asked the earlier question, are there roles outside of TA with content creator? That is a great list for that. Appreciate that,
I've
Gabe.
even heard a job post that said Chief Content Officer,
Mm,
CCO. Yeah. Yeah.
mm. Yeah,
We
that,
consume content now, right?
exactly.
We work remote and we consume content.
No, we're only creating content. We're creating titles for those roles as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's shift to see. Right. I'm not sure how much of it are you seeing out there, and it's just a general question. Because I know a while ago I asked a friend who used to work for a staffing agency, right, in
Mm.
particular, and said, "Hey, go live or make a video about the openings," and she, boom, took off. Got recognized, awards, and filled a
Mhm.
bunch of roles that way.
Mhm.
Um, how do you partner at a higher level doing this? And what I mean by that is internal. So what is your thoughts on getting with the executives and saying, "Hey, let's get you on for maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes to talk
Mhm.
about your department or something that's happening in the industry,
Yeah. Yeah.
and get more visibility from the senior executive team
Mhm.
and middle management and everyday folks,
Mhm.
the frontline leaders."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what would you say is a great way to approach that style?
I would I would have each level talk about different pieces of content.
Okay.
So at the executive level, right? Have them share about strategy, vision, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, values, more strategic things, right? What they value, where they see the company heading, right? So those are things fitting of a leader, an executive at a company. So have them concentrate on that. The next level down from that would then be like middle managers, right? So they're the managers that maybe someone's going to eventually report to, or they're the ones managing a team, right? Have them talk about projects, management styles, team culture, team dynamics, right? So they're at that mid level. And then the employees or the day-to-day operational people or functional people, those people, tell them like day in the life of that person, that role, right? Day in the life of the engineer, day in the life of the business analyst, day in the life of the customer service rep, and so forth. So at each level, they can communicate something different. And that way, when you roll out a job role or openings at that company, whoever is watching can then see, all these different levels of information, and they can really get like almost like a three-dimensional view of what it's like to work at the company, because they're seeing it through all these different eyes and different levels. That's what I would suggest. Oh, I think, did we lose your sound?
Nope, I'm
Oh, there we
good. I'm
go.
sorry.
Okay.
I forgot there's two mute buttons. You got one on the mic and then on the computer.
Yes,
So as you're
true,
as you're
true.
talking to companies from your company, Pathlinks, what are some of those conversations? What are you doing for them in the content space?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times we always start with like their business objectives, right? So for
Mhm.
this year, um, what are your business objectives, right? And what industries do you want to, niche down on? What services do you want to roll out? And from there, if we want to concentrate on, supply chain, if we want to concentrate on um, customer relationship management systems, CRMs, or if we want to concentrate on whatever those initiatives are, give them a priority. And then from there, assign certain months to different topics, right? Month one can be a certain topic, or even the first quarter can be a certain topic, second quarter or second month, and so forth. So you kind of break down themes and topics to the different months. And then from there, you take the content that you would do for that month, and then you find your subject matter experts, right? Whoever is the best to speak about that. Um, and you do recordings with them. Sit down and have a conversation with them, ask them trends, best practices, features, benefits, challenges that they see. And from those snippets of that video interview, then the interviews can be cut up to content. They can be made into white papers or PDF carousels. And so all that then gets rolled out for that month or for that quarter. So it's basically taking what might seem like a mishmash of information, prioritizing it, plan it across the whole year, and then feature the different people that are experts in that field.
Love that.
And so that's what I do with a lot of the companies that I work with.
So you're walking them through from, are you helping them break out that idea a little bit more and,
Yeah,
peel it back and say,
yeah,
okay, what's your vision? Here's
whatever
how
their
you
vision
can
is.
bite size it into
Hmm.
content.
Yeah,
Um, do
and
you
plan it
also,
out. Content plans, content
mhm,
strategies, video plans, rollout plans, when to post,
love it.
how to break up that information into different types of content, and then post it. And sometimes I'll help them post, or my team will help them post, or their internal marketing team then posts it and rolls it out.
Got it. I love that.
Mm.
That's super, super cool. And a mutual friend of ours, Julian Placino, I had a chat.
Julian,
I had a
yes.
chat with him. He was on when I first started this. and we chatted maybe about a month ago now. Gave me
Mm.
some great ideas. And
Yeah.
Julian, if you catch this, I owe you some information, buddy. So I haven't forgot. But he also someone that gave me some great insight too. So I from afar, you guys don't know, but I look and see what you guys are doing. But like, okay, I got to get there. I got to get to that level. So I love it. Thank you, Jeanette, for joining. Hey, how are you? And we get then Alex Mims. We has a
Oh, Alex. Hey,
has a
Alex.
he had a
Yeah.
statement there. He says the ability to be able to communicate strategic concepts in plain, concise language is a game changer. Yep. We can connect the vision to the day to day and tell
Mm.
the story. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Where
Mhm.
do you see this employee creator model going? Like what are your
Mhm.
thoughts as this new term is about to get coined and promote? Because I'm gonna change
Mm.
it on my title. I don't care. I'm gonna use it on
Sure.
my
Yeah,
right.
for sure. For
Hashtag
sure.
it and go forth. So where do you see that going in the future of work in today's
Mhm.
economy now?
They're basically ambassadors for the
Mm,
company. They're voices for the company. They're amplifying what the company has to say, adding their spin to it. Um, and and it'll only lead to more people. Well, first of all, they're going to become more engaged with the company because they're going to feel a sense of loyalty and almost like pride when they're creating content or sharing things that tie into the company brand. um, and they're also going to, I think they're going to attract leads
right.
because their content, if you see someone's content and you're going to be, man, that's a brilliant piece of article, or I really like what they said in that video. We can't help but look at what their job title is on LinkedIn, and we can't help but like see what company they're working for, right? And they're going to be like, oh, this person speaks so well and eloquently about this industry and they work at this company. Well, then maybe I want to give some of my business to that company, or maybe I
Mm,
want to join that company, right? So then they become, whatever word you want to use, spokespeople, ambassadors, brand ambassadors. That's another word I've heard used of
hmm
that company. It'll drive business and candidates to the company. Um, and people are going to believe them more than a corporate page. Like, let's be totally blatantly honest, right, Orlando?
True.
Right?
True.
Like if I've known you for 10 years and I suddenly see that you've joined this brand new company and I trust your opinion, I've worked with you before, I'm going to take a second look and say, hey, Orlando joined ABC Company. Like, I
hmm
wonder what that's about, right? Because I respect Orlando and I like his work, and I know he wouldn't just join any other company. So I'm gonna like take a little second look, and whether I do business with ABC Company or I want to, maybe I'm looking for a job, I'm gonna take that little extra look at it just because I've known you for 10 years, and then I want to kind of see what you're up to, right? That relationship and that you're almost like getting a accelerator on trust, right?
Oh, I
When your
like that.
employees speak on your behalf, right? Um,
An
so
accelerator on trust.
trust accelerator.
Yeah.
That just came out
Somebody,
of my mouth. Okay.
can somebody hashtag that for us? Trust accelerator. That's huge.
What's
I
that?
love that. I love that. And I think
Cool.
again, I'm gonna reference the article and thank you for sending that to me because it pulled out so much information that the employers of today and tomorrow really need to break from an antiquated type of thinking
Mm.
and not have it all on the marketing department. Just like
Mhm.
talent acquisition should not only be just TA's part. I think it's a company wide effort and outreach to say, hey, we're looking for the best of the best, whatever that looks like. Come
Yeah.
see who we are from the inside out, not just like you said, logos and static posts of systems and processes of what's going on. Like that,
Mhm.
that'll put people to sleep.
Mhm. Yeah.
Depending on the industry,
Yeah.
it'll put you to sleep. So I love that.
There you go. Rebecca, hashtag trust accelerator.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you for joining too.
um,
So when it comes to, because those types of conversations without sharing, client information and things like that, what are some of the wins you've seen from some of the partners you've worked with and companies that to say, hey, 6 months from now we saw your engagement, or this came out of now
Mhm.
creating this content plan. What are
Mhm.
some of the success stories you've witnessed?
Yeah. Well, when you're creating consistent content, you become top of mind, right? Even if you're not ready to buy something. So I'll tell you two stories. One is my own personal story, and one is
Hmm.
like a company story, right? So my own personal story is I met a real estate agent at or actually relocation specialist at a LinkedIn event, right? Back when, do you remember when LinkedIn locals were
Yeah, yeah,
prevalent? Yeah, right. I wasn't buying a house. I wasn't selling my house. I had no use for a realtor, but I liked her. She always created consistent content on LinkedIn, and we became friends, and we just kind of engaged on each other's content. And lo and behold, last year, our family just started randomly looking at homes because both of us, both my husband and I, are now working from home, and it's we just needed a different configuration. And who am I going to think of first?
yeah.
The realtor that I met on LinkedIn, because she's always top of mind, right? And so she sold our house, and we did well, and it was this wonderful cosmic connection that started on LinkedIn, right? Top of mind. And so that's a personal story. And then a corporate story is when you start pumping out content on something, your whole
Hmm.
network listens, right? And they may not need it immediately, right? Especially B2B, especially if we're in consulting and things like that, projects are like in the millions or hundreds of thousands kind of thing, right? You're not going to
Right.
buy something like that overnight. Um, but because they're consistently putting out content, when they finally had that need for that service, they're like, oh, I should reach out to so and so.
Hmm.
I remember his post from 2 years ago, or even like 6 months ago, right? Or even 3 months ago. It left an impression on me. And then you send a message, and then that's where your lead is. And by then, there's such a warm lead, right? They've already watched you for a year or for months, and they're ready to kind of like get into a deeper kind of conversation to close a deal or for a hire, that kind of thing. Um, so those are just two examples of what's possible when you create content. That can't be, you can't necessarily measure it, but those are like big results.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm gonna use a clubhouse term and reset the the live for folks who came on late. So we're talking about the rise of the employee creator or creator employee, meaning that you're a creator, right? You create content on LinkedIn, and maybe now you're in a position where you can leverage that to help your employer, or you're thinking about pitching the idea to your employer to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I think this will help drive, as you said, Fanny, leads, better, higher quality candidates for these roles, some of these niche roles, because we become more visible. As a
Yeah.
personal testament, I can tell you I did it. It works. So, and Fanny just shared her testimony on that as well. But and I wanted to ask you this because time is flying by. Wow, God.
Yeah. And I like Jeanette's question. So whenever we get back to it,
Yeah, let's jump back
yeah.
to it right there. I'll put it up. So it's bigger. It says, any advice on how to integrate your personal brand with your employer brand from a side hustle perspective? You might have read the
Mhm.
article because that was exactly in
Mhm.
that article.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
great question.
Yeah. Um, I'd like to answer that with a story. Um,
Absolutely, go for it.
and it's actually one of my former clients. So she's a recruiter, and but she's a recruiter that loves her side hustle is like wellness and yoga and meditation, and well-being, right? And so what she did, and we worked together to kind of merge those two and came up with a hashtag for her called hashtag mindful recruiter. And so what she would do is she would create recruiting advice, but then tie that into empathy and reminding people about like simplicity in the job search process and listening with empathy to the candidates, and the importance of well-being in an organization and culture. And then she would also write these articles that would tie in wellness and empathy kind of themes to recruiting. And so she basically took her side hustle and hobby and merged it with her corporate job and found the parallels and analogies between the two. Um, Even to like, she's believed in minimalism, right? So she would then talk about like how to have a minimalistic desk. And so then again, it still ties into the corporate world because we all have desks. Mine's a mess, and but like, but then she gets to exercise her creativity and her hobby of like
Mm.
wellness and minimalism, and then ties that to work and her career. Right. So a wonderful way to do that is to merge what you do and find a hobby that can tie in together. Another client of mine used to be a golfer, right? They played in college, but they're also a sales coach. So then he ends up writing like leadership and sales advice, tying in golf analogies, right? So that's a great way to kind of like marry your side hustle or hobbies with your career. You just need to find those kind of like parallels and then use them in stories and analogies.
That's that's good. That's good. And I'll just share my personal piece to that is because when I did it, I pitched it for the benefit of the organization, right? And it was to my former CMO. He had a LinkedIn Live. I had access, and so I was like, "Hey, we're doing it at two different levels, but from the same organization." To your point earlier, where you said executives could talk about this, mid level this, and then the frontline employees could talk about this piece. So we tackled two of those,
Mm.
and they accepted it. It was marketing got behind it, big push, big launch, so it was pretty good. But they have to truly see the value. I think,
Yeah.
if you to plan it out where it's like this, obviously this is not going to interrupt what I do on a day to day basis, but here's the slot I'm allocating for,
Mm.
for company, kind of collaborative content in
Yeah.
essence.
Yeah.
That would go over well. I mean, because Jeanette's out there. Jeanette, we know she's out there killing it, right? Out there with the what is it, Career Angels? I forgot the exact name. Her and two other ladies, three other ladies, they're out there killing it on LinkedIn as
Oh,
well.
I need to
So,
check it out.
oh yeah, they do a bunch of fun content. Hilarious,
Awesome.
absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
So, uh, man, this time has gone by. So I want to. I'm definitely gonna have to have you back. We're gonna have to have you back for a part two. But before you go,
Anytime.
oh, share with the folks another two-part question: what you have going on, best way to contact you, and everything, and then
Mm.
what last bit of advice you would give to an employer thinking about this as employees come to them and say, "Hey, what about this?"
Mhm. 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 Yeah. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I have my own live show, and that one this season, I'm I'm doubling down on content creation. So the show is all about creator tips, tools, and tales. So hopefully that's an easy way to remember creator tips, tools, and tales. In fact, Gabe was one of my guests. So we talked about live streaming with him, and then I had a guest, previous guest. We talked about TikTok, the rise of TikTok and
Hmm.
SEOs, and then Sherry Garcia, Power of Vulnerability. So anything to do with content creation, that's my series every other Thursday at 4 p.m. Central. So definitely tune in for that, and you can find me there. If you're serious about doing content, that you'll find tons of tips there. And then to your second question about kind of advice, um, I think the elephant in the room when it comes to content creation for employers is they're afraid that if their employee posts content,
Hmm.
then it might mean that they're ready to leave the company, or someone else is going to steal them or hire them away. And, you know, I think that's a very prevalent fear, even if it's not always like openly talked about. But honestly, the more you give to your employees, the more leeway and trust, as long as it's in alignment to what you're doing as a company, you're actually only going to create more loyalty and retention. And if somebody was going to leave, they're going to leave anyways, whether you you allow them or don't allow them. Um, but I honestly think that it will end up backfiring when you try to restrict people
Mm.
versus if you give them some leeway and some freedom. Um, they're only going to shine, and that light will cast extra brightness on your company and create retention and loyalty. So don't be afraid to let your employees shine, because it'll really just spread the light to the company as well. And it'll end up attracting even more like-minded people like that. And then that you'll build a culture that can nurture all that. And you can't afford not to be out there. Like we the rise of authenticity, the rise of transparency, the rise
Hmm.
of empathy, all those are big themes nowadays. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Orlando? Like,
I do.
all those
Absolutely.
things, people look for that. I mean, we
Yeah.
talk about the great resignation. It's because people are in search of meaning. They're in
Yep.
search of companies that they can believe in and that will believe in them. And having this kind of like, almost like a creative outlet
Yep.
for your employees, it'll end up retaining your employees.
Absolutely love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hashtag Professor of Content Creation, Fanny Dunagan. I'm coining the phrase. You heard it here
I feel
first on
like that
Career
I'm
Talks.
I'm gonna be like white haired and old or
No,
something.
no, no, no. Absolutely not. You just give such clear and concise information. I think, again, for those just employees who, right, because there was a time where folks we were telling, and still are, right, telling people just to make content. But now with this is a whole nother level. You're saying not only continue to produce your content or create content, but now mirror it with or marriage it with, that's not even a correct term, but partner with your employer to
Yeah,
add additional value. So, and again, just the way you deliver it is awesome, right?
thank
It's
you.
it's like you feel empowered. You be like, I can do that.
Yeah,
Like Fanny
yeah.
said, I can.
Well, because
No.
I was a very shy, quiet person, and growing up, like I was from a very traditional Asian Chinese family, and I really believe that we all have something to say, and we don't
Mhm.
need to be these, we don't need to be this big entertainer and like rah rah kind of person. Like we can just show up as whoever we are, and I believe everyone has a voice, and I believe everyone should share it and share their messages and share their gifts with the world.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you're not already connected to Fanny, connect, connect, connect. Her show is called The Fanny Dunagan Show on LinkedIn. She said every Thursday. I swear I see it every
I
week.
wasn't very creative. I couldn't think of what to call it.
Somebody posted it. What you said, content, tips,
Creator
tricks,
tips,
and
tools, and tales.
yeah. So there you go. Doesn't
TTT.
work.
Yeah.
It's awesome material,
Uh,
nonetheless. But I appreciate your time. Again, your expertise, your poise, your friendship, and
Thank you for
just
having me on, Orlando.
absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. Again, I've been a fan and continue to be a fan of what you do. So don't be surprised if I tap you again and it's just like, hey, educate me on this, educate me on
Anytime, my
this.
friend.
I appreciate it. So I'm gonna close this out with a quick video, and then we are off for the night. Thank you again, Fanny.
Thank you, Orlando.